Yesterday, the K-pop world was in turmoil. Not because of BTS's comeback or new album, but because HYBE, the South Korean entertainment giant, issued a surprising statement about its two iconic members, Jimin and Jungkook. The alleged breach of contract, which had been circulating only in fandom whispers, suddenly turned into official news and harsh warnings from major labels. This is not just an ordinary issue, it is an internal explosion that threatens the stability of the BTS Foundation. This news first emerged from the leak of HYBE's internal documents, a continuation of the leaked audit documents scandal that unfolded last October. The document, which had been a hot topic in Korea's National Assembly audit, turned out to hold more than just sharp comments about idol. Also listed are contractual provisions that are now said to have been violated by Jimin and Jungkook. According to an anonymous source in HYBE, they are called carrying out individual activities that are potentially contrary to the schedule and obligations of official promotion, a diplomatic sentence that implies a gross violation. Indeed, it sounds like a serious accusation that is impossible to ignore. While fans were confused, HYBE finally opened the official vote. In a statement sent to Korean media this afternoon, HYBE confirmed that Jimin and Jungkook have reportedly violated several articles of the contract and are currently working on a correction mechanism by management. As one of the world's top labels, HYBE maintains professionalism and will take decisive action when necessary. It reads emphatically, how will the response of these two global superstars be? The reaction of ARMY fans was immediately divided in two. Some are skeptical, calling this a public attack on the part of management to preserve the image. If there is a problem, take care of it privately, don't spread it to the public. A fan confided in an online forum quoted, HYBE seems to want to show who is the boss, he wrote. Another part of the chat criticized HYBE's previous leaked documents, which called other group favorites and even idols of HYBE herself sharply, as befits the viral Mean Girls Burn book, Reddit.com. 1. Now the debate crew asks, are these allegations of misconduct just a subtle form of revenge from HYBE's internals? In the midst of this situation, the big mystery is, what exactly did Jimin and Jungkook do? Two possibilities are predicted. First, they do tours or personal projects, e.g. musical collaborations or endorsements, without the label's approval. Second, they were said to have ignored the post-military discharge PR plan. After Jimin and Jungkook returned from the military, HYBE put together a big agenda. Allegedly, they actually disappointed the management through steps outside the plan. More dramatically, some sources said HYBE had held a re-evaluation of their comeback plans, even threatening financial penalties or suspension of schedules if the contract was violated. Reportedly, there is a post-military clause that specifically binds them for the next 9 months. Interestingly, the timing of HYBE's internal report comes just a few weeks post-discharge, such as to hint that this is a mature agenda since long ago. There are also rumors that this pressure is part of HYBE's internal drama, in which facelift groups Como Le Seraphim and New Jeans are given priority paths in its global strategy, which could lead to friction of interests. The public has witnessed Min Hee-jin, ex-CEO of ADR, label New Jeans, have a great feud with HYBE, Koreaboo.com, 2, en.wikipedia.org, 3. Now, the news of the alleged Jimin and Jungkook contract is considered a continuation of that tension, a bombastic news that caused uproar on the top floor of HYBE's office. However, among the boisterous issues, Jimin and Jungkook have yet to open an official vote. Jimin, who is known to be friendly and sensitive to fans, simply posted, "Thank you always for your love. All will be clear when the time is right." Jungkook, known to be quiet, waited and prepared a detailed statement. This combination is increasingly causing speculation. Are they really guilty, or just victims of the internal political battle of big branding? If it is true that they violated the contract, the consequences can be very severe: a large fine, suspension of activity, or worse, the postponement of the Army's long-awaited global comeback. Conversely, if these allegations are just the label's collective reaction to competitive pressure, then the police, the law, or broadcasters could step in. The case could trigger a re-audit, as happened with previously leaked documents. One thing is certain. Tonight, the Korean music industry is holding its breath. All eyes are on HYBE, Jimin, and Jungkook. Fandom factions are shaping their narratives. Some believe their idols are rigged. Others carefully analyze contract documents in search of evidence. And the public? They await clarification while browsing social media for the latest clues. Shock and controversy continue to grow in every shriek of online outrage and unexpected tweets. Like a thriller, this story is full of plot twists, from leaked documents, to parliamentary audits, to rumors of label rivalries. They all combine to form a true corporate drama worthy of a Netflix series. Is this an attempt to maintain HYBE's authority? Or is it a cunning scenario to hold the main members under brand control? Whoever you are, a hardcore fandom army sagong, an industry watcher, or just a connoisseur of celebrity dramas, this story will continue to evolve. And if Jimin and Jungkook are really innocent, tonight is their stage to open the curtain, explaining the contract that has been hidden from the public eye. For now, the world awaits. HYBE has spoken, and now it's on to the next beat. Is their most beloved idol on the wrong side, or just a pawn in the big fight for power and strategy in the global entertainment business, behind the crowd of stiff hashtags and press statements? However, lies a much deeper unease. For the first time since their debut, Jimin and Jungkook, two of BTS's youngest members who have so far been known for being the most obedient, most cooperative, are in a vortex that calls into question their loyalty to the agency. Over the years, the two have always been at the forefront of support for HYBE's policies. They are not just idols, they are icons. They are not just artists, they are the purest product of a system built by the label itself. So when these allegations of breach of contract surfaced, the public wasn't just shocked, they were devastated. It's like watching the perfect household suddenly crack on a live broadcast. What makes it all the more complicated is time. The issue exploded just weeks after the two completed their mandatory military service, a moment that was supposed to be a return to light for BTS and ARMY around the world. In HYBE's grand plan, 2025 is the golden year, the year of reunion, the year when the seven stars come together and shine on the world stage again. But now, that year was filled with a black cloud of speculation. Instead of celebrating togetherness, we wonder, will BTS really be back in full formation? This question was compounded by the silence of the other members. RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, and V have yet to publicly comment on the issue. In fact, usually BTS is known as a very solid group, where one member's problem is directly responded to together. But now, quietly. And this kind of silence, for industry observers, does not bode well. Are they also in a difficult position? Are they unable to speak due to internal pressure from the company? Some sources in the Korean entertainment world are beginning to speculate. This is not just another breach of contract. There are indications that the two Jimin and Jungkook are exploring a much larger independent move. Unconfirmed rumors suggest that the two are considering forming a sublabel outside of HYBE's main structure, a move that some major artists such as G-Dragon or Taehyung have considered. If this is true, then the crisis is not just about the clauses of the contract, but about the future direction of their careers. Something that could change the entire dynamics of the K-pop industry. Of course, behind all these rumors, there is HYBE, a company that was once revered as the dream home of idols, but is now highlighted as a symbol of power that is increasingly difficult to control. Critics began to ask, is HYBE too big to fail, or is it just too big to be fair? After the Min Hee-jin controversy that shocked the public with the recognition of absolute control in the company's structure, a new question arises. Is the label starting to lose its moral direction? Even more tragic is the fate of the fans. ARMY, which has always been known as one of the most loyal, most solid fandoms, is now divided into pro-label and pro-idol camps. On social media, a war of comments flared up violently. Some blamed management for demanding too much from their artists, while others accused Jimin and Jungkook of becoming big heads after global popularity. Some have even begun to bring up the past, highlighting that this is not the first time Jimin or Jungkook have been dragged into controversy, albeit small. But now all the old records are again rising to the surface like embers fueled by the wind. But in the midst of all that, Jimin and Jungkook's voices are still awaited. The world wants to know, will they choose silence and resolve this issue behind the scenes, or will they speak up, honestly, transparently, and shaking up the structure like Min Hee-jin used to do? If they do talk, it could be the most important moment in BTS history, perhaps the equivalent of their declaration of a hiatus in 2022. Unsurprisingly, the leaked internal report also revealed something that had never been known to the public, that there were individual performance evaluations carried out on each BTS member, even during their enlistment. This evaluation includes commitment to long-term contracts and willingness to carry out brand responsibilities. In the report, it is stated that the two names, which are believed to refer to Jimin and Jungkook, show trends of independence and nonconformity to collective structures. It's a language that, in the corporate world, means subtle rebellion. So now, HYBE is faced with a big dilemma. If they press too hard, they could lose two of their most valuable assets. But if they let the case wind down just like that, then they risk creating a bad precedent for other artists who might want to try something similar. It's not just about Jimin and Jungkook. It's a matter of how an industry, which has long relied on compliance and closed systems, responds to a new era in which artists are beginning to realize their power as individuals. Meanwhile, global media began to glance. CNN Korea, Nikkei Asia, and even Rolling Stone have contacted HYBE for confirmation. In Japan, where BTS has an unusually strong fan base, this news made headlines. And in America, where Jimin and Jungkook have a huge influence on Spotify and Billboard, analysts are starting to calculate the possible impact of a worst-case scenario. BTS won't make a comeback next year, and if that happens, history will take note. That the meltdown started from a leaked internal report, a statement that was premature, and a label that may have forgotten that loyalty is not built from legal clauses, but from trust. Will Jimin and Jungkook survive the label that raised them, or will they become the new liberation icons in the modern K-pop industry? The world is still waiting for an answer. The eyes of the world are now on Jimin and Jungkook, but the biggest focus is actually on one point. Who will speak first, HYBE or her idol? And in this high tension, time is the cruelest enemy. The longer the clarification is delayed, the wilder the speculation develops. Even the Korean media began to play a new, sharper point of view, not just about contracts being broken, but about the industrial system being cracked from within. A senior journalist from the Munhwa Ilbo, who did not want to be named, stated exclusively, this is not about a minor breach of contract. It is about the top artists who no longer want to be part of the gold-plated prison system. If it is true that they want to come out, this will be the most decisive moment in the history of Korean entertainment. A sentence that sounds like a prophecy, but it's also a threat to anyone who has ever depended on the stability of BTS's big names as market collateral. And amid the storm of opinion, the public was shocked again by the emergence of an investigative report that said that during his solo promotion last year, Jungkook allegedly rejected several projects set by the agency because he wanted to maintain a personal artistic vision, while Jimin reportedly delayed shooting a major ad for a global brand because it didn't fit the creative narrative he believed in. In a Korean entertainment world that prioritizes uniformity and adherence to corporate strategy, this action is considered insubordination, even if it is small. Shortly after this news surfaced, HYBE's official community account was temporarily removed from several forums, and some internal comments that were previously available in the investor community suddenly disappeared. The public is wondering, what is being covered? Is this just a protection against corporate image, or a sign that leaked information has exceeded tolerable limits? Not only that, a number of Jimin and Jungkook's big fan sites, who had been known to be very obedient and controlled, collectively closed their accounts for an indefinite period. Some of them expressed similar reasoning. We no longer know who we are protecting. A simple sentence, but with an incredible emotional charge. This is not just a disappointment. This is a betrayal felt by the most loyal fan base. It didn't take long for the global media to start sniffing the sin of division. Forbes Asia, in its editorial column, called this situation a case study of how Asian entertainment systems fail to read the signs of changing times. They highlight how Jimin and Jungkook, two symbols of Generation Z's artistic freedom, are trapped in a contractual system devised by previous generations. Even Billboard, which has been full of praise for BTS, quipped HYBE in an article, if a label as big as HYBE can't afford to treat their biggest stars with respect, how are they going to treat new artists? On the other hand, voices of HYBE supporters are beginning to emerge, and not a few of a defensive nature. They say that breach of contract is not something that can be tolerated, no matter how great the popularity of the artist. Some investors even suggested that HYBE restructure the contractual structure and not hesitate to release anyone who does not want to commit fully. This is where terrible speculation arises. Could HYBE really be ready to lose Jimin and Jungkook in order to maintain their control system? Meanwhile, some former trainees and production staff who had worked with BTS began speaking anonymously in the media. One of them mentioned that pressure on BTS members has increased since 2021, especially after the group's hiatus was announced. They are no longer just artists, they are brands that cannot be shaken. But everyone knows, behind the camera, the pressure is very real, said one of the old staff. This statement gives a clear picture that the conflict that is now sticking out has actually been growing in silence for years. The most heartbreaking part of this whole story is probably the fact that Jimin and Jungkook, who have always been symbols of BTS's brotherhood and harmony, must now fight to prove that their integrity as artists is not just extras in the corporate scenario. Behind the smiles on the stage, there were wounds that they had been hiding. And now, the wound is gaping in front of the world public. Even more painful for many ARMY is the possibility that all of this could be the beginning of the end. Although there is no official statement about BTS's disbandment or the members' exit, the mood has changed. The belief that they will be back together as they once were is slowly replaced by fear that they may be back, but no longer whole, neither physically nor emotionally. And behind all this polemic, one question continues to loom. Is this a consequence of overwhelming success? That being too big actually makes a person stuck in a system that can no longer be controlled? Or is this a sign that the K-pop world is entering a new phase where artists are starting to fight the system that has raised them? Jimin and Jungkook are now standing at the most critical point in their careers. Whatever they do going forward, talk, shut up, stick around, or come out will determine not only their future, but also a new direction for the Korean entertainment industry. One decision, one sentence, one statement from them can change everything. And when that happens, the world will listen. While the world awaits an official statement from Jimin and Jungkook, behind the scenes, HYBE's corporate engine continues to spin. Internal sources began to hint that the company was in a precarious situation, not just because of potential breach of contract, but because public confidence was beginning to erode. Not a few parties are beginning to question the integrity of HYBE's management structure as a whole. Investors fretted, fans were angry, and the media thirsted for clarification. HYBE is not a small company. They're not just a record label. They're an entertainment conglomerate that controls not only BTS, but also dozens of other groups, management agencies, subsidiaries, and overseas holdings. What happened to Jimin and Jungkook is a symbol, a reflection of something much bigger. Like a small shock in the foundation of a skyscraper, its crack can provoke the collapse of a giant structure. And now, the public began to see the first cracks in it. The question becomes much bigger than just who broke the contract. Now the question is, how deep is the crisis that has been sealed by the smiles of the idols? It is common knowledge that the K-pop industry demands an extreme level of discipline, exhausting schedule, restriction of personal freedom, and strict supervision of every action. But for many fans, Jimin and Jungkook have never shown signs of rejection. They are two of the most loyal, most obedient, most good members within the framework of South Korean idols. But now, the skeleton is starting to crack. Several columnists echoed Jungkook's old statements in interviews, in which he once said that he hoped to be able to make music of his own free will, without always having to conform to the company's strategy. At that time, the public considered it the usual ideal of an artist. But now, that sentence feels like a sign. Is this actually a subtle resistance that has long been harbored? Jimin as well. In various BTS documentaries, Jimin is known as a very perfectionist and sensitive figure.